So, hello everyone. Sorry it's been a minute since I've been here. You all know I went on vacation for a second, and I just took a minute to kind of come back to the internet because, getting back into the swing of things, and I don't know, my energy was just not in it. It could have been PMS, but who knows? But regardless of that, I wanted to finish up with one of the videos I promised to do before I left 2 weeks ago, and that was on the Children Online Privacy Protection Act, otherwise known as COPPA. I think it's known as something different in Europe or in the UK. I would say Europe because I think it's for the European countries as a whole, not just like Britain. Or, I mean, sorry, not just like London. Yeah, no, I had it right. Britain or, some places like Ireland. I think this is also supposed to be something that's supposed to be spread to like Australia, Canada, I think Germany, France, all of them are supposedly a part of this act. And a lot of people are afraid and concerned because they see this as pretty much being the ending of privacy, censorship, anonymity. Anonymity, I'm gonna hurt myself on that. But a lot of people see it as a form of, that's just really going to be the end of that. And people are concerned that, you know, it's pretty much cracking down or going to ruin their algorithms when it comes to some of the content that people observe. And a lot of people have kind of decided to opt out. I mean, I know has been a continuing thing since pretty much like, is that last year, the beginning of this year, really? I feel like it's been full force where you kind of seen a lot of people that are leaving the digital space because it's becoming very toxic. It's not as fun anymore. People are too much in your business. These database companies, I don't want to say database companies, but these platforms, YouTube, Meta, X, they're like too busy in your business for you to just kind of like have fun and do what you want to do. It's becoming very corporate driven. It's becoming very analytical, and that's kind of like not what people wanted it to be. They really wanted it to remain like fun spaces, much like um oh, what is that I'm thinking of? I don't think this is fun, but some people say, like 4chan. I think Reddit is pretty cool because I get a lot of information, uncensored information there because a lot of the anonymity is still there. There's places like, what was that, Tumblr? And, you kind of have those corporate people that kind of come into it. Pinterest used to be that way, but now it's becoming more corporate. It's becoming more analytical. It's been taken over by bots and AI and all this other stuff. So people are just very concerned with how it's going to be. I've even heard some rumblings. People say this is going to spill over or has already spilled over into kind of like gaming spaces. And it's just like all the places you would kind of typically or people typically escape to just kind of like have fun, relax, is becoming invasive. And so it's kind of removing a lot of the fun or the reason why you use those platforms in the first place. Of course, I've heard the talk about this with places like, when you think about Cornhub or you think about like OnlyFans, like those kind of things, people are just kind of like over it. So I figured, why not do a reading on it and see what I get, if there's going to be some kind of trouble coming up for us in the future. If this really is the beginning of the end of like the internet as we know it. Yeah, just let's look into it and see what we get. Because this is like a general energy reading, there may be some things I pick up on that you all may be aware of. I may not be aware of. I may be aware of it. I may be aware of it, but it still doesn't mean that I should not go ahead and just explain it. But I am going to add all of that in here. I am going to simply go in. I start as I typically do. I kind of go in and start these things as an energy reading, and I go from there, from what the vibes and stuff, the information that I pick up, and move forward. Also, because the medium that I'm using for this is my own intuition and cards, tarot cards specifically, I do want you all to take it with a grain of salt. I do, if I'm right on something, awesome, perfect. If I'm wrong on something, awesome, perfect, because I'm human. It's like, it is what it is. I'm just going to try to explain what I can as best as I can. Think of me as like a spiritual interpreter. There's some things that I may translate or relay that is not all the way correct, or it just doesn't translate over properly. So it is what it is. If you are okay with that and you are okay with continuing, please just note along the bottom of the screen here, all statements made are alleged for entertainment purposes only. Okay? So let's get into this COPPA. For thinking about COPPA, I feel very drained already. I tell you that. Let's get into this energy reading on COPPA. If you do hear fireworks and stuff going off, it's a holiday here in America. So I know it seems like it's always a holiday, huh? But seriously, it's a holiday going on. And so just in my part of the woods, my neck of the woods, people like to pop fireworks. So I'm not in any trouble, at least as far as I know of. But you will hear fireworks probably in the background because I've heard a couple of them go off earlier. Okay, we do have the Eight of Wands here. Let's note what else comes up here. We have the Page of Swords that very much reads like internet to me. The Judgment, the Magician. We also have the Three of Coins here and the Chariot. I'm going to mix these in here like so and see what actually comes up. See what else comes up for COPPA. Okay, this is sticking up here. That Justice card wants to come out for sure. Now, it's funny that we had the Justice and the Judgment card kind of come out here. So it is speaking to a lot of the legalities. We also have the Knight of Pentacles in reverse. Let's see one more card here. And then lastly, we have the Knight of Wands. Money, passion. Money and passion is the root here. But it's pretty much coming up in reverse. So instantly this makes me think of, are they trying to crack down on tracking down on people's money? Is it because of the cryptocurrency? Because, that's been a big thing in the last, 5 years? Maybe 8 years? Cryptocurrency has been like a pretty big thing. I know it took a major hit a few months ago, maybe. I don't know if it's back on the uptick. I haven't been looking into that, but that instantly makes me think of like cryptocurrency. I wonder if they're just trying to crack down on that and better watch that. And again, with the Knight of Wands coming up here in reverse, this makes me think of, notice we have both knights here dealing with movements, things trying to be enacted. It makes me feel like there's a crackdown on, I don't want to say people's passions, but typically when I think of wands, I think of travel, global things going on a major scale. I think of the internet. I do think of places like YouTube, for example, where people kind of use these as escapes or a way to connect with other people without kind of like all of that interference. It's not so much like that now. I even think of things like Patreon, which is something I'm currently trying to open. I think of things like Discord. What's that one that recently just had a crackdown? Oh, it had the blue box and it had the white sale paper. A lot of people were saying that they criminals was using it for like criminal activity and messaging. Jesus Christ, what was that? I like see the logo, the app in my head, and I can't think of what it was. But I'm thinking of things like that. It was just kind of like, yeah, we're trying to crack down on stuff like that. There may be some things here where maybe they are trying to bring in some more judicial aspects of the. I kind of. So this is the analogy that's coming to mind for me. I think of online as the last wild wild west. You know, it's the final frontier right now, in a sense. And it's also it's kind of like we're trying to bring a sense of order. Like, yeah, you have all of these rogues out here and these savages. I don't want to use that word, but this is the analogy that's coming to mind. You have these savages, these random people, these rule breakers out there. So now we're going to bring in cowboys essentially to kind of like bring some law and order to things, and we're going to also have them backed by, like, you know, the sheriffs or whatever the case may be. I don't know how this is going to apply, who's necessarily going to be the cowboys, who's necessarily going to be the sheriffs in this analogy that I'm getting here. But yes, and I do think this is something that's gonna take off pretty fast. I do think this is something that is going to pass, unfortunately, looking at what I have here. Unless there is maybe going to be something here where people are going to push back financially, or you know, again, with this being fire, unless it's something like, you know, people revolting against it because they don't like the overwatching, the surveillance that's coming with this. And I want to be clear here. I think there is some good aspects of COPPA, but the way you're rolling this out is kind of, from what I understand, the way they're trying to roll this out, it's kind of hard to manage and delegate censorship online because it's such a vast way, and there's so many different ways people kind of get around things if you know what to do. It's just going to make it harder for like maybe the everyday person or the less tech advanced person to do it. And I think that's going to be some of the issue. The underlying cards here, we have all the portions that play here that deals with the internet. We have the Page of Swords here as well. That's something to be known, something being discovered, maybe something that's good in theory but not in practice. It's kind of like what I think of with the Page of Swords. I think of like college students, you know how to apply it in theory, maybe not so much in practice. Then we have the Sun here. Ooh, not on the home front. People don't like that. So I wonder if this applies in two ways. I wonder if this is something that's going to make it hard on families. Like, if they're trying to do something where it's going to fall back on the parents or something like that. So that's going to bring up an issue here. Or is it so much that with the Four of Wands going to bring up home? Maybe this is like speaking nationally of like how the public is going to react or not take kindly to it as well. The Sun, I think of, yes, this is the affirmation card. So it could be, yes, this is going to roll out, this is going to happen. But this also could be like, maybe this is going to highlight and show some things about the home or family life, or about people, the nation, the U.S. citizens themselves, kind of like not taking kindly to this and figure out ways to get around it, or just opting out altogether. And I kind of feel like that's just the way we're kind of going right now with a lot of this AI infiltration, and people just kind of really being unhappy with how the American experiment, how America is being ran right now. It just kind of seems like it's a divide of people who are kind of going the traditional route and people who are jumping headfirst into all of the technology and wanting it all. I'm still calling myself a fence rider at this point, because there is some things about the technology I like and I think is awesome. I like to use it, but there's also some things about it where I'm like, okay, that's going a little too motherfucking far. So yeah, up. And I also want to point this out. Look at all these wands. Oh, and the King of Swords as well. It's going to be like, I know something feels like tyrannical about it, but people are fighting about it. It's a burden that people can't bear, can't pick up. Okay, let's see what else I'm going to get here. Let's expand on this a little bit with this COPPA energy. What's coming up about COPPA? So it's funny enough. I have the archer here with like these wands, you know, sticks, arrows, pulley. I was thinking of the Eight of Wands, and I got the archer, biding your time, planning ahead. So this makes me feel like this is something that they've been had in mind for a while, but it seems like maybe the execution is being rushed, is what I feel like with the archer card on top of this Eight of Wands, because the archer is saying, hey, biding your time is being planned. You kind of like really thinking about the steps and processes to get you there. But to me, this kind of feels like an unfinished bill or like a rushed bill, something they're kind of just rushing through, and they're not thinking about maybe all of the implications or the fallout that could come from this. They're not really fleshing out a lot of stuff. And that pretty much sounds like the Trump administration as a whole to me at all times. It's what I think of. So that seems pretty accurate to me. Let's see here. Justice card, deception and trickery. Trying to get more clarity on why this justice card is here. Justice card is opinion here. Okay, this one wants to come out. Loyalties, chains, and promises. I want to make sure that's on there so you can see it. Clear it up, clear it up. Okay. And we also have deception and trickery. Who are they really after? What's the real reason? I don't think this is for children. I don't think they're saying it's for children, but to me it feels like you're kind of doing this for I don't want to say nefarious, but you're kind of saying this is what it is at the surface, but it's really something else underneath. I don't really think you're doing this for children. Okay. The path is difficult decisions, lack of direction was one that's flipped over here, but let's see if that's supposed to come out for the Knight of Pentacles. Why is this here? What energy is the Knight of Pentacles representing here? I also had this, two sticking up. We have inspiration and gratitude. Yeah, people aren't going to be happy about that. Cause and effect, clarity. They don't know the fallout. They're not prepared for it. Overcoming slights and choice. Let's try this one more time because that was way too many cards to the Knight of Pentacles. Can I get some clarity on what the energies the Knight of Pentacles is representing when it comes to this COPPA? Okay. We have short-footedness and predestination. Oh, it's something else that flipped over here. Okay, wait a minute. Was there something else? Oh, no, that was just me being crazy. I thought this was a flipped card because of all of the darkness around it. Again, this makes me feel like they aren't. This is going to have what they call it. Basically, this is going to have effects that they probably assume it's going to happen, or it's going to have unintentional consequences. That's the word that I was, unintentional consequences that's going to be happening here. That's what this feels like to me with the Knight of Pentacles with the Hunter here. And notice how most of the things that we have here deals with kind of like hunting something down. Like, yeah, just think of hunting. You have the Hunter. The Knight of Pentacles is typically the slower moving knight when you think of tarot. You have the Archer, you have the Hound. And then on top of that, you have the deception and trickery card. It kind of feels like setting a trap for something. So who are you trying to get to fall into this killing pit? Like, Oh, that was way too much for the Knight of Wands. Let's try this again. Thank you for all of the information, but let's dwindle this down to like 2 or 3 cards, please. 1 or 2 cards, to be exact, 1 or 2. That's all I can kind of fit on here. I get some clarity on the images. COPPA Act. Let's see, we have the twins, self-protection and dual natures. And to me, that to me, it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. People are kind of opting out for their own safety or their own protections because that's one way they can protect themselves. Or people are kind of gonna find another way around it, another way to kind of get underneath or maybe work within the system, but just make it hard or difficult for people. I do also have the orator that came out in here, and this is dealing with communication and confidence, but it is coming up in reverse. So that speaks to a lack of confidence, a lack of communication. So is it going to be dead internet theory? Let's move these up here. I want to see if there's anything else that's going to jump out to me first before I read the underlying energies. The twins, I think it just, again, I'm thinking of Gemini, and that again deals with like communication, double speak. I do think of legalese as well when I think of Gemini, because when I think of legalese, they make it seem like, oh, it's plain and clear for everybody to understand, but then you have kind of like those acronyms, or it's like another language, knowing how to speak legalese. It's a different way of how you go about things. So that's something that's popping up to me. But then we have the cartographer here, a crossroads exploration. We also have the brawler, which deals with the lack of empathy and confrontation. Is this going to make people just even more mean online? Or is that something they're going to bring up and say, hey, we're trying to cut down on a lot of the online bullying, but it's not really that? If anything, you're going to see probably more of that happening. Little consequences. You know, I also wonder if this has something to do with maybe some of the gun stuff that goes on here in America. Because you notice, if I don't know if you all noticed, I've noticed most of them now kind of do it for like online fame. They be doing like whole manifestos and crap. Like, I wonder if that's another thing. Someone's giving me that episode of Black Mirror where the girl's mom turned up her, was it her like parental advisory settings, and so the girl kind of in the mom's, how did the episode go? So basically the mom was trying to protect the child from seeing some of the hurtful things that go on in the world, so she turned up her privacy, her what was it, like her adult privacy protection settings or something like that. I may be butchering it's on Black Mirror. I think it's in the first or second season, and I want to say that was the first season, and the mom's attempts to kind of like protect the girl from seeing negativity, she kind of desensitized the girl from cruel acts in a sense. So I wonder if maybe that's something that's coming up, because that is like the episode that vividly came to mind for me. And again, I don't know what that may be alluding to. I'm just intuitively, I'm giving you the messages I'm getting here. And then we have the poets dealing with relationships and vulnerability. Yeah, is this just gonna make people more callous in your strive, in your attempt to kind of like curve the negativity and the maliciousness and the, I want to say anonymity. Look, I'm gonna hurt myself on that word. I'm struggling with anonymity. In your hopes of cracking down on that, you're kind of creating your own worst nightmare, because now people don't kind of like, even if there's repercussions, it's gonna be people just kind of like, well, whatever. Especially if you don't have any bite behind it, you know? Okay. Lastly, let's see what we get in here. Ooh. Okay, bless your heart came out first, but let's see any additional messages or energy or the COPP Act. If I'm saying act twice. Okay, again, something about family. 3 sheets to the wind. That's overindulgence again. That's escape, blowing off steam. Okay, before I read the rest of this, I wonder what this is saying that this is eventually going to pass. I don't know if it's going to pass right away with this 8 of Wands. I don't know if it's going to pass right away or it's going to pass sooner than we think, or, maybe it'll pass further on down the road. But I feel like when this eventually comes to pass, when this is enacted, because I feel like it's a matter of when, not if. To me, this feels like a matter of when, not if. I feel like and I feel like the main reason it's going to pass is because we have to think about how tech driven people are right now. And a lot of these tech companies have been facing persecution because of the lack of like responsibility that they kind of hold when it comes to their platforms. So one way to kind of navigate or avoid that responsibility, yeah, let's say we're protecting the children. Let's show that we have some kind of, put in a portion of like good faith. Let's buy in some good faith, some good reputation, some good PR for us to protect ourselves so we can still make money on the back end very much. Because again, people are still going to figure out, the people who want to do the bad are going to figure out a way to do the bad and get away with it anyway. It's just going to hurt maybe the less tech advantage person or the everyday person is the best way I can say it. So a part of me wonders if this is just a way of them of tech companies kind of avoiding washing their hands of accountability by saying, well, look, we passed the COPPA Act. We got this because we want to protect the children. We care about the children. You all was concerned about that, so we did what we had to do to protect it. But it's also just creating a way you're suppressing, but in the same sense, in the same way, or in the way of you protecting the children, on the opposite side of that coin, you are very much suppressing, or it feels like suppression or oppression to those adults who aren't in the criminality of it all, or the bad seeds, the bad apples of it. Who aren't trying to get around it or whatever the case may be, who is very much just like left with the tools that they have, or that you have given them, and you're making it hard for them to kind of like, again, indulge, blow off steam, have some kind of creative outlet, and you're creating a pool of resentment, essentially, is what I wanted to get to. All of that roundabout just to say the tech companies and their attempt to protect themselves by saying we're protecting the children and to avoid accountability, you are creating a pool of people, mainly adults who don't fall into the COPP Act and who don't fall into the criminal behavior of it all, the bad apples bucket over there. You're creating a pool of people that's just like, no, I don't want this, take it back, and you're creating a form of resentment. So I wonder if there's going to be, again, some kind of, I want to say, protest or revolution around the COPP'd Act, or people kind of doing out of the box stuff to kind of just stick it to the man, in a sense. But then we also have I'll get around to it. Again, this makes me also think of I'll get around it. But this says, what's the rush? Waiting, inspire action only. Trust, relax to allow the flow. And then we also have your moms and them. This is dealing with your people. Again, I wonder if this is dealing with some kind of community aspect of this, where, the American citizens or individual pockets or communities or some kind of uprising in some sense is kind of just like, no, we're gonna find a way around this. This is dealing with foundation, reunion, roots, connection. Maybe it's gonna force in people to get offline and communicate in person, because are we going back to traditional communications? This is also holler communication, honesty, news, text, phone call. People are gonna go back to the old ways of doing things, because now it feels like it's too many people in the chat now, seriously, because the government is in my business. We also have blowing up a storm, strong momentum, sudden change, necessary shake-up, transformation, hope that is coming up in reverse. Again, this makes me feel like this is going to eventually pass. It's a matter of when, not if. To me, that's what this feels like, and people are going to adapt. And I do think there are going to be some people that is very much going to be in trouble and have to answer for a few things. Or there's going to be people that's kind of just going to jump ship again. So that is what I'm getting on the COPP Act. Let me know your feelings about it down in the comment section, because again, several things can be true at the same time, and that's kind of the nuance that I give this. I think there should be more protection and privacy and care given to children who are surfing the internet. Maybe they need to have their own individualized server that they access, or something, kind of something like China has their own entry access point into the internet, and leave the rest for everybody else or for the adults. Or maybe you can gain access to the big boy playground when it comes to the internet or something. I don't know if that even makes sense, because I'm not a big tech person. I'm just spitballing here. But I do also think that the COPP Act is a bit of a cop out. It's a bit of a, we're washing our hands clean and we're trying to protect ourselves. So yeah. Again, let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Let's talk about this. Again, I have started a Patreon. Hopefully it will be approved soon and you all can see it and we can have more deeper discussions there. And you will see some exclusive video releases on that side of things, just because I'm trying to prepare myself for this and for the eventuality of this being pushed through. So with all of that being said, I thank you all for joining me, for watching this video, for giving me your likes, your shares, your subscriptions, for making sure to hit that notification bell. If you did like this reading, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. That is welcomed as well. At least it lets me know what you all are paying attention to and what you all like. So again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you in the next video.